Well, hello, St. Peter's. It is Tuesday, and it is time for our weekly check-in, our little 5 good minutes, where we look at how can we go deeper with the sermon on Sunday, how can we begin to live it out in our lives, and particularly in this series on questions, the questions Jesus asked, it's another chance to go deep into those questions. And so if you were with us on Sunday, a very quick review, we went through Matthew 6, 25 through 34, where Jesus talks about the questions. Is not life more than food and clothing? And who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? So really focused on the power of worry. And most of us worry about things. Most of us have anxiety, some more than others, but all of us understand what it is to have something sit with us, sit heavy with us, keep us up at night. And just a few things I want to remind you. First, remember that worry is an emotion, right? It's not actually a sin to worry. It's what you do with that. It's the same with anger or other things. So there aren't going to be days, there isn't ever going to be a moment that's worry-free. Sometimes I think we want that. We say, well, I want to get through this, and then I'll get to the point where I'm worry-free. And that will never happen. So the real question is, what do we do in times of worry? And specifically, what do we trust in? Right? Jesus basically gives 2 major categories and then subcategories. So he says you cannot trust in both God and money. And then he goes on to say, don't trust in clothes, in your position, in all sorts of things that are material, right? What our job is, all sorts of things. He says, trust in God, and all of these things will be given unto you. But if you trust in them, fundamentally, you're going to end up losing your trust in God. You can't serve both masters. I think we also talked about on Sunday, sort of what do you trust in, and then what do you worry about? And I think most of us found that they're actually kind of the same thing. The things we trust in, we rely upon, are what we also end up worrying about. So I hope you've had time to let this question get a little deeper, but I want us to think, what are the things in our life that we trust in, that we invest in, that we feel like if I have this, then I'm doing pretty well? And, be realistic about that. Maybe talk to your family about that. We don't have Wednesday night this night, but talk to a friend in the church about that. It's important to be honest about what those things are. I shared on Sunday that I probably trust more than I should in money. When I have a little more of it, I feel secure. When I have less of it, I feel vulnerable. And yet, money is here today and gone tomorrow, right? It can be taken away with a plunging of the stock market or a theft or whatever else. And God says, trust in me, don't trust in money. You can't do both. So I do that. But I think that's something I want to continue to work through to let go of, to say there's nothing wrong fundamentally with money, or it's certainly not with work. But do we trust in it? Do we put our full faith in it? Does it become an idol, right? The love of money, as other scriptures talk about. Or is it just something that we use to pay the bills and serve the Lord, right? And maybe in the opposite order, to serve the Lord, and then also, put food on the table, things like that. So what do you trust in? What do you worry about? The second thing I would really encourage you to think about is how much is your faith in God playing out in your real life? I remember someone once said, I can't remember who it was, that their way of understanding history was to study how people spent their money. That was, they would just look at their accounting essentially, and that would tell them what was really at their heart, what they trusted in, what they valued. I think there's an argument to be made about that, but think through that. If someone were to look through how you spend your money, would they say, this person worships God, this person trusts God? or would they say something else? So think about those two questions this week. I'd love to hear from you if any of you want to share, but the real deep goal of us as a church is to figure out how do we put our trust in God, our fear in the Lord, right? And let go then of some of these other fears. Think about that. I'll talk to you soon, church.